All right, I think we're live now.
Yay!
It looks like we're live. We'll see. So I'm
Yay.
actually gonna see if I can see. Okay, so if anyone is here live now, if you guys just wanna give us a hi and let us know where you're tuning in from. I'm just gonna see if I can actually see the actual comment box, but I'm seeing someone is giving a thumbs up. So I'm just gonna take that as a sign that it's actually working. So
Yeah.
yay!
Cool.
Awesome. All right. So we are so if you haven't subscribed yet, go ahead and do that just to keep updated on more goodness like this. And if you're excited to get into this with us, go ahead and give this video a like. So Jill Therese and I, we're gonna dive into some goodness first, and then we're gonna do a little Q&A at the end. But if any questions come up along the way, just post them in the comment box. I'll figure out how to actually see them. But just post them there and we'll figure that out and we'll take that at the end. But Jill Therese, super happy and excited to be with you here today. We're gonna talk skin health, gut health, we're gonna dive into all of that. But for people that don't know you, if you just wanna give us a little bit of background and share a little about your own acne healing journey.
Yeah. Hi. Well, thank you for having me. I was going to say welcome. Thank you for having me. My name is Jill Therese, and I am the creator of the Clear Code, which is my acne clearing program. And I had really bad acne for 15 years until I was about 26-ish. I had a really horrible dermatologist appointment where I left in tears, and I had tried everything up until that point. All the topicals, the hormonal birth control pills, all the things, right? And I left that appointment after the dermatologist offered me a $500 light treatment that may or may not work. And I cried the whole way home. And I just kept thinking over and over again. I was repeating the words that she had said to me, which were, "You've tried everything. I know what else to tell you." And I just kept going over everything I had tried. And I realized in this aha Oprah Winfrey flash of genius moment that I hadn't tried everything. I hadn't tried my food. And so I went home and I put together a plan, and it was the plan to heal my acne naturally, come hell or high water. And I followed it assiduously, like very dedicated, committed to this specific food meal plan for 30 days. And 30 days later, my skin was completely clear. And it has been ever since.
Right.
And so that was, I think, around I always get my years wrong, late 2000. So it was 8 years ago. So 2013-ish, I think. Yeah. And shortly thereafter, I started my website, healyourfacewithfood.com, to share this, because I thought, wait a minute, if this helped me, maybe it can help other people. And so I started sharing more about what I was doing with other people, and it worked brilliantly for other people. And now 8 years later, here I am.
Yeah, that's amazing. And, I was curious to hear, with your acne and when you also healed your acne, what were some of the other things that, changed in your life? How did that make you feel when that healing happened?
That's so cool. So it's interesting. I left this out, and I'm glad you asked. One of the reasons that I started to think about food was because I was training to become a fitness instructor at the time. And I had been kind of unhealthy, for me, I could just kind of get away with eating poor food. My skin looked bad, but I didn't necessarily see any other negative effects. And I just ate pretty crappily, and that was my life. But when I began studying how to become a fitness instructor, I learned all of these new things about food and health and wellness in your mind and your body, and how all of them were linked, stuff that you're just not taught growing up. And all I could think was, are you freaking kidding me? And so when I healed my acne naturally, it positively impacted every other aspect of my life, I would say.
Yeah.
10 times physically stronger than I was then. I've run 5 half marathons since I did this. I taught fitness for a long time. How I eat, my periods are better. It positively impacted every single aspect of my life.
Yeah. Yeah. No, and I think that's so amazing. And I see that, I'm curious also to see, hear how you see that with your clients as well, because I have that, with gut health, it's kind of the same. I see, when some of my clients, when they start to work on their gut health and they start to improve their gut health, like it kind of spills over to so many other aspects of your life. Like, you get more energy, and then all of a sudden you feel more confident, you have more energy to do these things that you felt like way too tired to do before. So it's so clear that it always spills over to other things.
Would you say energy is the biggest thing that your clients see the most benefit from?
Yeah. Yeah, I would definitely say energy, but also, things like just feeling more, connected with your body as well. I think with gut health, that's just something with, if you're struggling with symptoms like bloating or constipation, diarrhea, whatever it might be, you also feel disconnected from your body. So of course, when you start to heal, I think also that that connection comes back again. So, with your clients, what would be some of the kind of main things that you also see, like positive things that they experience in their life?
So I work with, I'd say maybe 25% of my clients are either trying to get pregnant or they just had a baby. And so there are definitely positive impacts on kind of overall fertility and hormonal balancing in general. And just kind of control and awareness of what's happening to their body through these hormonal shifts. So that's key. I think too, with my program, you get 8 weeks of a meal plan defined for you and laid out that's synced to your cycle. And so that's really helpful from a cycle syncing perspective, but also too, all of the meals, it has been reported back often that families love these meals, that like the kids love the meals. So I see it too as positively supporting their whole family.
Yep. Yeah.
Because when I was a kid, I just wanted macaroni and cheese. Yeah. But if you've given me something that tasted better, that's a good alternative, I probably would have it. So that's definitely a huge positive. They also, depending on kind of their weight body goals, they either become stronger or maybe they'll gain weight or they'll lose weight depending on what their goals are. Everybody's different. Everyone has a different goal for their body. Sure. I'd say I'm probably 50-50 with all my clients, or maybe, 33% of them want to become stronger or to experience a transformation in their body, and eating differently empowers them to do that. Right. 33% of them want to gain weight, 33% of them want to lose weight. And so each of them are empowered to do that in a way that really supports them and doesn't feel, sorry, stop hitting this thing that's moving my screen, that doesn't feel restrictive or disempowering. Yeah. So those are kind of the biggest ones: fertility, hormonal balancing, body health overall.
Yeah. Awesome. And if we're talking about acne, like because I'm thinking this might be a question that comes up, like what different kinds of acne are there, and why is it important to know what kind of acne you have, if it is important?
Yeah. So there are different kinds. I would say so there's kind of like yeast overgrowth situations that can happen on your skin. So it's called Malassezia Folliculitis. And that's a little bit different from more of a bacterial type of acne, which is like P. acnes. There's acne congoblata. There's acne vulgaris linked back to P. acnes. There's all different types of acne. And I have found different root triggers for all of them. When you have, so acne congoblata, for example, is rather severe often. I don't see that too much. There's also acne rosacea There's perioral dermatitis. There's so many different types of issues that you can have with your skin. And I definitely think that that's very important to define early on when I'm first, analyzing if a client is going to be a good fit for the program. I ask a lot of questions I ask a ton of questions. It's an hour-long conversation. I'm looking at their skin things. So that is important. And also, I always go back to the fundamentals of clear skin as we approach treatment, which are balancing your hormones, balancing your blood sugar. Gut health is huge.
Right.
I was just talking to the client this morning about gut health, and also making sure you're not completely destroying your skin with topicals. That is a huge thing that I see.
Yep.
90% of my clients are using far too many topicals. And so we focus on slowly weaning off of those things too. But I do think, there are different types of acne, and you have to treat it really holistically. You have to look at what type you have and also what current treatments you're using and what the root cause of your issue is. So there's so many aspects to healing it.
Right. And if we're talking about, I'm thinking about the food aspect. So, even if there are different types of acne, like, do you usually see that it's the same kinds of foods that play a part in healing, or is it different kinds of foods for different people, or what's your experience around that?
Yeah. So like I mentioned, I've been doing this for 8 years, and I wrote my thesis on healing acne naturally I'm a certified nutrition consultant. And over the years, I've really defined kind of 2 main fundamentals or principles around acne healing. There are the fundamentals, clear skin fundamentals, so blood sugar management, gut health, and hormonal balancing. And then there is the detail that each client needs something a little bit different. And so to your question around what foods are best and what action steps are best for gut health, there are fundamental stuff and food elements that we focus on with the meal plan, and every single ingredient in that meal plan has been chosen specifically. There are 90 plus meals in every single ingredient, and its preparation has been chosen very specifically by me. And those are kind of fundamentally going to be supportive for people from a clear skin perspective. And that's about 50% of the equation. And then 50% of the equation is they need support. And so I will look at I troubleshoot with them when we decide on specific action steps. But I would say 50 to 60-ish% of the foods for acne clearing are pretty universal, and they can be applied for everyone. But then the other 50%, you have to take into account food sensitivities, gut health issues. And so then we will take specific action steps per person based on those issues.
Right. Got it. And in terms of foods, just in general, like what kinds of foods are a good treat? Is it plant-based, or do you recommend something else, or what does that look like?
My program is about 75% plant-based. Cruciferous vegetables are huge. They support estrogen detoxification, which is very important when you're dealing with acne.
Yeah.
Ton of like leafy greens, all those things. I like to recommend low sugar fruits, generally speaking. But that being said, fruit is fine and lovely. If you're eating a pineapple every day instead of 4 Oreos, like, we are good.
Yes.
I feel like the internet freaks out about fruit, or
I know.
there's a lot of restriction, and
Yep.
I do not feel that way because it doesn't work long term.
Yep.
So generally speaking, fruits, high veggies. I like to recommend too a lot of inclusion of healthy fats. So Brazil nuts, almonds, walnuts, olive oil, coconut chips, avocados.
Yeah.
I really like them to start to employ healthy fats to support them from a blood sugar perspective, because so many of us are walking around with dysglycemia, so just like totally messed up blood sugar.
Yep.
And it's like on a roller coaster throughout the day. And so a lot of healthy fats, dark leafy green vegetables, and then like quality proteins. So lentils, like high quality fish, high quality poultry. I definitely, I veer away a little bit from pork and beef just because where it's sourced, it isn't always the best.
Yep.
Beans, I generally have clients avoid because they can be really irritating for your gut if you don't prepare them correctly. And so that's generally what we focus on, but it is kind of, is a specific science behind all of it too.
Yeah. And I like that you brought up the fruit thing. I think that's, that's a very common thing I get as well, or, I have people say, oh, I've started to, exclude fruit because of the sugar and, so I think with
It's a
that,
banana. It's not going to kill you.
exactly. But I think this whole, like, when it comes to restriction, that it's very easy to start to restrict things that are actually good. There's so much stuff online, and that's another thing as well. But that's something I tell, people that I work with too. Like, it's, fruit, it can only be good. As with anything, you shouldn't overdo it. Like, if you eat, 10 pineapples one day, you might feel that, of course.
Yeah.
Exactly. But I think when it comes to, plant-based, minimally processed, like, it can't really go that wrong.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I think, as you say as well, it's such a, like, also holistic way of looking at things. So it's not only food, but also all the other aspects of life, like stress, how's your emotional life, and of course with skin health also in terms of skin care as well. So it's all those different things as well.
What are the biggest foods you recommend for gut health?
So I definitely recommend plant-based. I always get the question, oh, do I have to, go 100% vegan now? Do I have to go 100% plant-based? And that's definitely not the case. The more plant-based you're eating, the better, and that's mainly because of the fiber that you can only find in, plant-based foods and that your gut needs. Like, that's, your healthy gut bugs, that's what they eat and thrive on. So I always say, if you want to keep, things that are not plant-based, like, kind of go with the 80-20 rule. Like, try to keep it 80% plant-based and then have 20% that's, animal-based, or that's more, processed food, so it doesn't feel too restricted. Because I think that's another thing. Like, if it starts to feel like it's too controlling and too restrictive, like, oh, now all of a sudden I can't have anything that I, enjoy, or like treats and stuff like that. So then it's better to have that balance. Otherwise, it's also going to create this stress in your life.
Extreme stress too, right? Yeah.
Yeah. And Jill, I think I saw somewhere, I don't know if it was on your Instagram or if it was on YouTube, but I know you mentioned something like, what happens in your gut, or like the state of your gut, is reflected on your skin. So can you talk a little bit around that?
Yeah. So I used to think years ago, when I first started taking probiotics and I saw such a great shift in my skin, I thought, oh, probiotics kind of sounds like antibiotics. That's why it fixed it. Like, I didn't really understand that.
Right.
Obviously, as I went to school and I worked with clients, I learned more. And really, gut health, I've, again, come to understand through all of my education and work with clients, as it relates to skin health, largely has to do with absorption issues. Yeah. Most of the time, my clients are very low in a lot of key vitamins that support them from a clear skin perspective. And sorry if I'm fuzzy right now.
No, it's fine.
Okay. So absorption is key. And a lot of times their gut lining has been compromised because of long-term hormonal birth control pill use, long-term just kind of general nutrient deficiencies from a food perspective. They're just not eating a good variety of plants and things like that.
Right.
So that's the biggest issue I see, actually. And or like kind of things like SIBO or gastritis, all of which, again, too, just links back to nutrient absorption and the kind of quality and integrity of the gut lining.
Right, right. And, I'm just thinking, because we talked a little about the different kinds of acne, and a very, a question that also came up, before we were going to do this slide was around rosacea. Like how is that different from other types of acne? And, in terms of treatments, in terms of food, is that different in any way? So just to kind of hear a little bit around that as well.
Yeah, so rosacea is kind of a tricky because there isn't really a solution, like a fix, like, oh, here's how you fix it.
Right.
Rosacea is more of an inflammatory condition related back to very specific triggers that are usually unique per person. And so a lot of times when clients come to me and I can tell that they have rosacea, we focus really clearly on getting very clear on what their triggers are by using our Clear Code journal. So they'll use their Clear Code journal week over week and we'll analyze for triggers. And then once we've gotten clear on those triggers and truly simplified their skincare routine as well, usually they can manage their rosacea pretty significantly. It's not necessarily something that they're going to fix and like be healed of, but it can be far more managed than I think the world leads us to believe.
Right. And what are some other things like to think about if you have rosacea, some things to avoid? I'm thinking maybe both in terms of food, but also other things to avoid, stressors and things like that.
Yeah, so generally the biggest triggers I see for rosacea are wine, coffee, any type of stimulant, a really irritating skincare routine, heat, all of these things, when you say them, you're like, well, heat, how can I avoid heat?
Right.
But it's more like, I like to use the example of, let's say it's a hot summer morning and you go for a run outside. And then you come back and you take a hot shower. Then you have a hot coffee, or even just like a cold brew. And then you go meet a friend in the park for a glass of wine later in the day and you sit under the sun. That is like a welcome to a rosacea flare type day.
Yeah.
And so you have to look at some ways to mitigate that. And a few ways are, obviously go for a run because life is life and you want to go for a run. But take a lukewarm shower. Maybe have a decaf tea instead.
Right.
Use a really gentle moisturizer instead of like harsh things like retinols or vitamin C's. And then maybe when you meet your friend, bring a cold drink instead of like a coffee or a wine. Sit in the shade, wear a hat, and use a ton of SPF.
Right.
Those like small lifestyle modifications throughout the day can really support you in avoiding the extreme of the trigger.
Yeah. And speaking about skincare, like what do you usually recommend? I know you also mentioned that, a lot of your clients maybe come in and they use way too many different kinds of products. So how, if you are someone who's right now, if you're using like a ton of products, like how's the best way to kind of get off of those, and what will be some like types of skincare products that you would recommend?
So if you're using 10 different products for your skin right now, please, for the love of all things, do not stop them all at one time.
Right.
Because I will cry, you will email me crying, and then I will be upset. And so that's number one. Any type of active product like retinol, vitamin C, benzoyl peroxide, salicylic acid, those like 4, just top of mind. If you're using all 4 of those, pick one that you want to slowly taper off of and begin using it every other night for like 2 to 3 weeks, and then taper down slowly one by one.
Right.
That's first things first. If you want to, again, you might not want to based on your skincare goals too. So that's where like the personalized focus comes, right? That's number one. Number 2, I am very, very minimalistic when it comes to products. I grew up with acne, obviously, and I had every single product you could possibly imagine. I spent thousands, tens of thousands of dollars on these things, and none of them really worked. And so I take a really, really minimal approach. I recommend things like Vanicream, CeraVe, Cetaphil, all these things that are going to be light. They're going to restore the health of your barrier, because a lot of us have just like broken, like we've almost like put these giant, literal and metaphorical cracks in the barrier of our skin. Like you have beautiful skin, right? And I can tell that it is very healthy, but a lot of have just used too many products, and so our
Right.
skin is broken. And you want, like, moisturizer is going to be your friend. Something to remember when you're dealing with acne. Not oil, moisturizer.
Oh,
Please
interesting.
don't use oils, please. Oils feed yeast. They
Right.
like feed Malassezia Folliculitis.
Yep.
And I can't tell you how many tearful emails I get that are like,
Yep.
I had a little breakout that was kind of itchy, which is like sign number one that it's yeast based. And then they used an oil on top of it, and now it's just like a total explosion. And that is just very hard. So no oils, simple moisturizer, moisturize the F out of your skin, and taper down slowly any products that you would like to. And you should really just work with someone, honestly, to taper down.
Yeah, that sounds like the best idea. And I think as with anything, and I think especially when it comes to with skincare products, I mean, I can imagine this, if you're getting breakouts, it's also that panic, I need to fix it. And this idea that, well, that skincare product seems, or you read somewhere that it works, and you just start to try a million different things just because you want to get rid of it. And I feel like, when I was struggling with digestive issues, I wasn't struggling with severe acne, but my skin was, definitely taking a toll on that as well. And for me, it was also that, the first thing that I wanted to use to try and fix it was products, skincare product. I want, almost I want to wash it off, or scrub it off, or get rid of it. And like you're saying, it just becomes even worse when you start to use all these different things as well.
It just becomes a spiral.
Yeah. And I think also, I mean, thinking budget wise, just thinking of that it's just okay, I just need to have a few things, moisturizing, doing these kind of basic things, and really start there. And like you said, also getting help with it as well. And I know, we talked about digestive issues, gut health. It's playing such a big part also in skin health. And with my clients, I always say that, if you're getting breakouts and with acne, it's really just also your body's way of communicating that something is out of whack. If your gut is not in order, if you don't have a healthy gut, it will come out somehow, through your skin. It can also come out as mental issues with anxiety, depression. So it's so linked, everything, but I think gut health really plays a big role in it. But apart from digestive issues, and I think you mentioned a little bit around this in the beginning, but what will be some of the other kind of main things that actually trigger acne?
A lot of times, blood sugar management, digestion, and hormonal balancing are the kind of three biggest triggers that I see. And blood sugar and your hormones are really, really deeply linked. Your hormones kind of do everything in your body. So they create just so many reactions in your body. And your blood sugar impacts your hormones so deeply.
Right.
And so outside of gut health stuff, blood sugar management is key. And the most interesting thing over time that I've seen, and I see this in myself too, so it's so interesting, your clients come to you with challenges, and then they kind of become a mirror for your own challenges.
Yeah.
But they'll think that they're eating in a way that really supports them from a blood sugar perspective. They really will truly believe, I'm eating healthfully. And 99 times out of 100, when someone says that they're eating healthy and their skin looks the way that their skin looks, I know that there's a blood sugar management thing. If they say my digestion is really regular, I go to the bathroom 2 to 3 times a day and it's perfect and life is good, but my skin looks like this, and I know I eat really healthy, I know that there's a challenge. There's a challenge from a blood sugar perspective. And it's usually kind of ultimately found in just lack of knowledge of what truly constitutes sugar, what it really looks like to balance your sugar. We're taught, even my father, who's very stubborn and is a type 2 diabetic, he'll have just plain toast in the morning for breakfast. And that is just sugar.
Yeah.
It's toast. He's got a crazy accent. It's toast, Jill. It's not a problem. It's just sugar.
I love that.
And so I'm always like, it's just sugar, Dad. It is a problem. But clients don't know that either, right? So
Right.
I add in a lot of healthy fats and proteins and really change up their meals from being 75% simple carbs, ultimately converted immediately into simple carbs in their mouth, to proteins and fats.
Yeah.
Like I switch up that ratio.
Right. So Jill, just a final question. So, for anyone listening now who's struggling with acne or just, poor skin health, like what would you say, what's the next step for them to do? Like where do they go from here?
Well, I have an acne personality quiz that they can than lovely. I would love for them to take, and it really helps you identify those kind of initial triggers: your digestion, your blood sugar management, or your hormonal. Is it hormonal? And so with that quiz, it's super fast. It's like 30 seconds, 10 questions. You can start on 3 different action steps and 3 recipes based on your triggers.
Awesome.
So that's the first thing. You have to figure out why you're breaking out. You have to get to the root cause. That's like action step number 1.
Yeah.
And then from there, you can start taking action. And let's say worst case scenario, this happens maybe 5% of the time, where someone will take action based on their unique triggers and they won't see results. Maybe 3 to 5 clients out of 100, or 3 to 5 audience members out of 100 will be like, oh, this isn't working. There's something different. They have fungal acne, or like a yeast-based issue, or they're dealing with a rosacea. And then, but either way, action creates information. It creates movement for you, right? So that's would be the first step. What would you say the first step for your clients from a gut health perspective would be? Yeah,
good question. So also definitely, and I love that you bring up the root cause thing. That's something I always say, we need to find out the root cause, because what happens is that, a lot of people that come to me, like they've been to, doctors, and this is not to talk bad about doctors in any way at all, but when it comes but it's just with something, and I think especially with natural healing, nutrition, like, that's not their kind of field. They're more in, with medications and these kind of things, which can be absolutely necessary sometimes. But, for some, it's then that they take the medication, but it's like no other changes are made, like not diving into, okay, let's say, for example, with IBS, just as an example. So irritable bowel syndrome, which is very common, it's just this term that someone gets or diagnosis. Like when everything else is ruled out and it's just like, we can't find anything, you have IBS. That's, so
I know this.
That's, So, then you get maybe medication for it, and then it's very easy to rely on that. But medications will only cover up the symptoms. It's never gonna get to the root cause. So, once you actually get off that medication, like symptoms will come back. And the problem is still there. So that's something I always say, okay, let's get to the root cause. Where does it come from? Is it, that you've been taking too many medications, antibiotics, food, like gut issues can be triggered from, food poisoning, just something like that, because it really just wipes out everything. And it's so harsh on the gut. So just from that, you can actually get, a damaged gut. Or is it because you've been eating junk food, a lot of sugar, drinking a lot of alcohol? Does it come from there? So it's the same. It's really getting to the root cause and then figure out, okay, how do we work on healing your gut from there? But at the same time, I would say, in terms of food, plant-based, that kind of diet, or eating more like non-processed foods, looking at stress management, emotional balance. It's kind of, everyone can do that. It's the same, but at the same time, it's also really key to understand, like you said as well, like where does the issue actually come from?
Right. And what got you kind of on that note? What got you into your work with gut health stuff?
Yeah. So for me, it was really when it was probably between the ages of 16 to 24, something like that. I was having a very bad relationship with food. So I was having an eating disorder, and that in itself really triggered the gut issues. It's like if you don't eat anything, hardly eat anything at all, if you don't feed your body, like you will develop gut issues.
Right.
And, on top of, having anxiety and, low self-image, stress, all these things, it just becomes a really bad cycle. So for me, it was a lot of, bloating, constipation, but also, pain. So that's really where it came from.
Mm.
And I think as with a lot of people and with you as well, we kind of go through our own healing journey with this, and you kind of just like realize what it's like to, kind of go from that more shitty situation, so to speak, to
Yeah.
heal and what it actually feels like to be in a, going through that health transformation. And for me, that was really, like, oh, I need to, I feel like I'm so drawn to, helping other people who, not necessarily that you need to have, an eating disorder, but just, knowing what it's like to struggle with gut issues, anxiety, and just the relief that happens when you actually heal that. So that's really how I got into and the
Love
focus
it.
on gut health.
I love it.
Yeah. So why don't we see? I just wanted to see if I can figure out the.
I think the light in my apartment has changed since we started talking, and I feel like
Yeah, it's getting darker here as well. So, all right, I'm just gonna see if any questions are coming in. All right, so if you guys have any questions, feel free to drop them. And also, if you're listening to the replay, just also feel free to drop comments and we'll get back to them as well.
I noticed a comment from one of our AA friends.
Yes! So awesome. Oh, Lyndon, you're here as well. That's so lovely to see you here too. Awesome. All right, cool. Well, we covered a lot of amazing stuff, and I also got questions beforehand also from my audience, so we've covered a lot of the things as well.
Can I ask you one last question?
Of course.
Your recipes are amazing.
Thank you.
Where do you get I hate cooking. I really do. And I don't tell anyone. I tell everyone, not to tell anyone. It's like my secret. But how do you get inspired to make these things? They look so beautiful. What inspires you?
Yeah, good question. I have loved, and it's funny you say that with hate cooking. I also have clients that just don't like the cooking aspect, which is totally fine. But I have loved that since I was a kid. I remember at, I don't know if it's elementary school, but very young, we would have this extra class where you would be, you could choose either to do, music or cooking, whatever. You could pick something. And, cooking for me was like a given. And I also remember, I would always love whatever we have done in the class. I would always bring that home and actually do it at home. I would want to cook for my parents and prepare. So, it's something
that has never been my experience.
And we're all very different with that. So,
if you gave me cooking or woodworking, I would be hammering those nails all day.
Right.
I don't know what my issue is. I'm really working on it.
Right. And I think it's just an interesting, but I think something that I tell, some clients that I have that just don't like it at all, then it's more of a focus, why do I need to do it? Because it's also if you actually do want to, with your health, if you want to heal your gut, it's something you have to do. And sometimes it just takes a bit of also practice and getting into the routine, or just making, more of a fun event around it. Cook when you have your favorite music on, or listen to a podcast. You know, if you don't, for me, it's very like therapeutic to cook. So I can be, you know, complete quietness and just be very focused on that. But, you know, if you don't love cooking, if that's not your thing, just, you know, make something out of it. You know, put on, again, your favorite music or podcast and just have fun with it. And then it
I love
usually
that
comes.
idea of making it into an event, because I
Yeah.
love cooking for other people, or like, you know, on a date cooking. That is fun.
Right.
So that's a really cool idea, thinking about doing it from like an event perspective, and like, yeah, I like that a lot. That's really interesting. I've never thought about it that way.
Yeah, usually that helps a bit, especially because then you kind of move the focus from, you know, that you're cooking and that you're just like taking a break and doing it,
Right.
and keep it simple. Like, if you don't love cooking, like, don't get into super complicated Master Chef, like 3 hour things.
I'm like, oh, I'm going to cook up a 4-hour braised croque monsieur. I don't even know if that's a thing, but that would be me. I'll pick something ridiculous, and then it'll take 7 hours, and I'll mess it up, and then I order pizza.
Right.
It's like
Exactly, because then it becomes too like overwhelming, and then also the complication, and then all of a sudden it's just not fun anymore to actually do the cooking.
And then the cleanup is so extreme that it's not worth it. It's just
Exactly.
But it's really interesting to think about it as an event.
Yeah.
A movement away from work to like, it doesn't have to be work, it can be enjoyable.
Right.
That's interesting to think about too.
Exactly. Yeah. So definitely give that a go. I think definitely anyone who's listening, like, if you don't love cooking, make it an event.
Yeah, that's cool. I love it, Anne. I love it.
Cool. So, Jill Therese, we're gonna drop your the quiz in the description as well. I'll just add that after, so people can grab that. And I'll put your YouTube channel down there as well, so people can check that out. But yeah, of course. Anything else? Any final things you want to add?
No, just that gut health is freaking key, and I see it more and more and more. So I love that the work that you do too, because it's integral to our life. I meant to tell you earlier before we get off, I had a horrible gut issue in the fall.
Right.
Crazy. I've never had anything like this. And it was ruled as gastritis after essentially I didn't eat for 8 weeks. I'm not kidding. My hair started falling out. I had all this crazy stuff, and kind of to your point, they just put me on omeprazole and sulfuricate.
Yeah.
And maybe one other medicine that just handled the symptoms.
Right.
And I was like, why are we not addressing the actual issues here?
Yeah.
So it was a very weird thing to go through. It's much better now, thankfully. And I actually think, to your point, things had been weird. I had been noticing some weird symptoms, like nausea isn't really a common thing for me, but I had been noticing nausea after I would eat at this restaurant. I'd eat this one specific meal at this restaurant. And I ordered it again like an idiot because it was really delicious. And, and within 12 hours, it's the worst stomach pain I've ever had in my life. I was surprised that I wasn't throwing up blood. That's how bad it was.
Right.
I swear it was a meat-based dish with a tomato sauce, and it was zoodles. It was like a zoodles bolognese.
Right. Yep.
And I swear the meat was contaminated, plus the acid from the tomatoes and all the things. And then it was just like off to the races.
Yeah.
And I didn't eat for 2 months.
Wow.
It was terrible. And I had to have a thing where they looked inside and all that. So.
Yeah. Yeah. But again, like you mentioned, that's usually what happens. And then you get a lot of medications to cover that up. So, you know, of course,
and you have a rebound.
Yeah.
But the second I stopped the medicine, I had about a day of joy, and then it came right back, kind of. And then I had to go back on the medicine.
That's the thing. It just covers it up. And it's not to say, again, getting back to that point, because I don't want to sit here and say like, oh, medications are always bad.
No, right.
Definitely not. But they should be more of like a helping hand when you have very intense symptoms, and it's because healing naturally takes time. So
Right.
of course medications sometimes can be good just for a short period of time, just to kind of help things in the beginning when if it's super tough.
Emergencies. I always say, like, if I break my leg in a car accident, please do not give me peppermint oil. Take me to the freaking emergency room.
Right. Yeah.
But if you're dealing with long-term chronic stomach challenges, why are we just going to put something that just it's like a Band-Aid, and then in 3 months it's going to come right back? How does that fall from the actual issue? And that's how I feel about acne too, which is why this is such a good chat. Because it's so linked. You can use like a Retin-A or an Accutane for a little bit, and then it comes right back.
Exactly. So takeaway for you guys is just like focus on natural healing. We're not saying medications are like always bad, but it's so important to combine it with good foods, stress management, emotional balance, all these things. And also just, trusting and then listening to your body as well, and what you need. Yes. Well, thank you so much for doing this. I think this was an awesome chat, and thanks guys for being here. And also if you're watching the replay, if you have any questions, just drop them below. And if you want even more goodness like this, make sure to subscribe as well, so you keep updated on that. Wonderful, and have a great rest of your day.
Bye.